Hey, so we have Paul McCarrier here. This is a follow-up conversation from the third working group meeting. Wanted to make sure we gave Paul time to talk about patient education and the work that he's doing with his store and his business in Belfast. So, Paul, I'll just hand it over to you if you want to talk about what you're doing and things that we can incorporate into what hopefully we'll be doing moving forward. That'd be great.
My name is Paul McCarrier. I operate one mill in Belfast, Maine, and we work with Healthy Waldo County and the Penobscot Valley YMCA to provide education about safe cannabis use and storage. The biggest thing that we have discovered is that the use of pamphlets is not an effective means to get the message across to people. It's going to be one-on-one conversations. So it's going to be education with conversations that come from your bud tender to the patient. And also when you're talking about the actual usage, you're talking about patients being able to understand like what the product will do to them. And that can, obviously everyone's different, but that's one of those things where patients are gonna, better to hear it from someone who actually uses the product as opposed to somebody who is referring to something like a test result or a reference off of one of the websites. So what we do right here is this is one of the things that we have from Healthy Penobscot County, and I'll make sure to email that over. But it's about safe storage for your dogs and your cats and other animals. Because that's been one of the things that has been a big issue that we've heard about, is that people have had their animals getting into cannabis or their animals having edibles. You know, they're like, you know, dogs get into stuff. So that's one piece. We also have this this pamphlet right here, which basically gives you a brief explanation about edibles and how edibles will take effect later on. They tend to be more potent and they tend to last longer. This is another pamphlet from, I believe, Good to Know, Maine, that is distributed by the Knox County Community Health, not Penobscot County YMCA. And those are the pamphlets that that were created via this grant. As a way to try to educate the public about safe use and safe storage. Again, I don't think there, but it is available at our store. And we always we have to do is low and slow. Is you always start with a lower level dose of edibles and generally a lower level use of anything that's inhaled or even applied topically to make sure that there isn't an adverse psychoactive effect. This has been one of the more effective things that we've found that has actually gone out over social media. And so I know that there's been, you know, other large businesses and government groups have used influencer, quote unquote, influencers to be able to spread information to patients. And what we have seen is that this has been one of the more effective ways to get the message across to patients. And also it's just a simple graph that doesn't have a lot of words that people can really understand if they're new to edibles. So this is created by Corey and Janelle LaPlante from Tastefully Baked. You can see their Instagram tag down there. There's text that goes along with that, but that is the quickest and simplest explanation for how edibles work. It's really direct, and that's what people are looking for. So in essence, from my experience of educating patients, the goal is to have one-on-one conversations and figure out what people are comfortable with. The most is that there's no fatal overdose level with cannabis, is that you may have a bad time, but you will not die. And so that's something that people who want to experiment with edibles, and we've actually found this more with our patients over 50 years of age, is that they will say, oh, 10 milligrams, that's nothing. I can do 100. And then they take 100 milligrams and they have a bad time. Being able to remind them of the fact that we're still going to get the psychoactive effect, but at the same time, that lower dose is going to have you be able to figure out your own levels. And if you do take it too much, it's not going to be a medical emergency. drink some orange juice, put on some good music, and do your best to relax.
Well, I guess my question for you is back to the partnership that you have with those community-based health groups in your area. How did those get started? Did they reach out to you? Did you reach out to them? How did that partnership come to be?
We were a part of a education group. I think we were working with the CDC on that, and that's where we met and we spoke. And when I was trying to explain to them about how to effectively educate patients, how to effectively work with safe storage, that's where these relationships came from. And they offered to kind of use us as a pilot program. I explained to them that I didn't think pamphlets would be the best use. I think it would be better used to buy like self-storage containers or safe storage containers that will be distributed through the stores free of charge to patients. But they said that is not within the scope of their grant. So, as we've talked about, Eric, we understand that, when you work in government, you have very clear, lines that you have to operate in. And that's where we made the connection. But at the same time, I've worked with other people in the community. I've worked with some recovery groups when we're talking about cannabis as being essentially a medicated assisted therapy to try to get them to keep people from relapsing for using opioids or alcohol, not really speed or anything that's an amphetamine, mostly opioids and alcohol. But we've worked with them on that and try to educate people about storage. Go ahead.
So as far as the patient education piece and just kind of basic knowledge, it sounds like you're almost saying a smart approach would be like a train the trainer almost, where we can have bud tenders come in, make sure they're equipped with what they need in order to have those more effective one-on-one conversations.
I think that could be an effective program that OMP could offer. I don't think it should be mandatory because I don't think a one size fits all is going to be an effective way with this program or any other program. But when if there was a base to educate bud tenders, I think that could be a good program that OMP could offer.
Cool.
Yeah, and then all in all, it's interesting to see when we're talking about the demographics of patients who are using it, that are using cannabis therapeutically, is they tend to be people who are older, more and more. And at the same time, I think we're also seeing more pediatric patients. And the conversations that I've had with parents and medical practitioners about pediatric patients has always come back to the fact that cannabis is a level 0 drug compared to other pharmaceutical options that are in the toolbox that are given to patients. So, you're talking about Paxil might be like a level 4, Adderall being a level 5, cannabis is a level 0. So, Klonopin being a level 5. So when you're starting with cannabis, it's the idea that if there's a behavioral issue or a mental health issue or a physical issue, pediatric patients will have less side effects, less adverse reactions, and no physical addictions if you start with cannabis. And obviously, if cannabis doesn't work, you can explore other options, but we have seen that cannabis has been essentially the most effective way to allow these children to have full, happy, and successful lives. We've had one patient that's been with us for 3.5 years, and when we're seeing his progression just from his disciplinary record within the school system, there's been a steady progression of him being needing less one-on-one attention, less disciplines, less suspensions, less detentions. So pharmaceuticals were not giving him that option. Pharmaceuticals were, according to the parents, were making it worse. So that's when they turned to cannabis, and so far cannabis has been effective in making him a healthy young man.
Nice. All right. You have anything else you want to share, Paul? I mean, this has been helpful, especially at least from our end, understanding how that relationship can form with the community-based health organizations, and also the understanding that the most effective method would be a conversation versus any materials ever produced by CDC or OMP or whoever it is.
Yeah, I think the material, I guess it's like the materials if they are just available online, because I think most like retail stores have a printer or something. So if someone wanted to access them, you could give them the link. If they didn't have access to the internet or be able to print, you could print it off for them, or if they're, didn't want to use a printer. But yeah, those, being able to make sure that people understand how cannabis works, I think would be the great thing. And again, even if you educate, and this is where I go back and forth with the idea of stuff being mandatory as opposed to things being encouraged, is people who have not used edibles before do need to use a lower dose of edibles, and they need to be able to figure out whether that's going to be a full spectrum edible or a distillate or a live resin, for what's going to work best for them. But you don't want to, it's like any therapy, you don't want to have people use a higher dose than will be therapeutically effective. So unless we're talking about the palliative care or anything like that, like you have said many times, is just keep it low and slow.
Great. Sweet.
Awesome.
Well, we appreciate you circling back,
I'm gonna get
Paul.
back to my dirt work.
Yeah, nice.
Yeah, no, thank you. Thanks for reaching out to me. I appreciate taking the time to do it. And we'll see each other on Tuesday, and I'm sure the conversation will continue.
All right, man. Take care.
All right, hey, have a great day. Thanks. Bye.
See ya.